Hello and welcome to When the Fuck Did I Become Old? And today I'm talking about something that doesn't always get spoken about. In fact, sometimes it's entirely ignored, especially as we age, and that's sexual health. That's men's sexual health in particular. But what if your erections could actually give you more than just pleasure and could actually give you an indication that there is something wrong with your health? Joining me today is Dr. Elliot Justin, who's an emergency doctor turned sex tech entrepreneur, if I can say that, who is on a mission to make who's on a mission to make erections not just enjoyable but informational. He's the founder of Firm Tech, which is the creator of the Tech Ring, a smart wearable for your penis that tracks your erectile performance and detects early health issues. Welcome to the show, Elliot.
It's great to be here, and I can tell you that as a former emergency medicine doctor, there are few emergencies that concern a man short of a heart attack or a stroke as much as a limp dick, especially if it happens 2 or 3 nights in a row.
Sure.
And I think every man knows, and every woman who's involved with a man knows, that a man's mental state is probably only good as his last 2 erections.
Brilliant. I love that. Yeah, you're probably right. I hadn't even thought that. But
I think for women it's about 1 week. For guys, it's about 2 nights. But go ahead.
And of course, it then starts to affect the woman in terms of how do I, perhaps she doesn't find me attractive, and then you've got the whole dynamic going. But what led you to create something like this, the penis ring?
Well, it's some of the things that come to us in life that are great are really providential. And this is somewhat similar. I've always been, at least according to my mother, excessively interested in sex. So Mom.
I don't. All men excessively interested in sex.
I don't think that there are a lot of doctors. I haven't found one yet in the world whose mother took them to a urologist twice when they were teenagers because she was concerned that their masturbation habit would prevent them from getting into college. So,
okay, fair point.
Right. So, in the first day of medical school, I looked around and thought, these are not my people. So I went to the medical library, and back then, before there were computers, something called the Index Medicus, it was like 7 or 8 volumes like this.
Yeah.
Of all the articles that were published on every subject over last year. And I went for the A volume because I wanted to read about aphrodisiacs. And there wasn't exactly a line of medical students behind me clawing to get at the A volume as well, too. So jumping ahead many years, I live in Montana, as we discussed earlier, and I own horses, as I showed them to you. And
you did.
I feel that I ride like a 25 or 30-year-old. I ride with a certain enthusiasm, even though I am over 70. My wife thinks I ride like a 4-year-old. But it was a beautiful day, several years ago, and some do-gooders had cut a tree that had fallen over a trail so you could walk underneath it, but you couldn't ride a horse underneath it. Or at least you couldn't ride a horse underneath it if you were galloping, especially if you're galloping and looking in another direction. So I broke that tree into many pieces, I'm certain, with my chest. I broke 6 ribs and 6 vertebrae. Fortunately, my spinal cord was not damaged. But that got me interested in what's been done to rehabilitate sexual function in men or women who've had spinal cord diseases or spinal cord injuries. And there were, at that time, there were like 5 or 6 papers, peer-reviewed papers in the urology literature, saying that they were able to neuromodulate human sexuality. Meaning planting an electrode. Most people familiar with cardiac pacemaking, especially older people, because we know people have a pacemaker, and that's basically controlling a nervous function with a battery pack, a generator pack. So I tried it out on 2 rams, 2 male sheep, and we got erection and we got ejaculation. But we also got defecation, urination. So it wasn't exactly bedroom friendly. Now, I'm certain there are certain communities, in perhaps London or New York City or Sydney, or that might be a successful business project. But I wasn't interested in that niche. I was interested in addressing a larger market.
Okay.
So ordinarily, what some would do under those circumstances, they would, in the United States at least, they would proceed to go out and raise $15-25 million, and then go down to Brazil or
Mhm.
Nigeria and find 25 men with erectile dysfunction and
Yeah.
attempt to make this work. I thought, I'm just going to try it out myself. So I had a friend who's a professor of urology at the University of California in San
Right.
Francisco, went to his outpatient surgery center, had his wife, who's also a urologist, implant an electrode by my pudendal nerve and cavernous nerve. Everyone's two favorite nerves that no one talks about. These two nerves are right under the pubic bone in men and women, and the nerves are
Yeah.
responsible for arousal and orgasm. Uh, and I felt nothing.
Oh.
Now, what's interesting about this is that, I've been a doctor for decades. Doctors talk about the medical literature. Well, outside of medicine, when we talk about literature, we're talking about fiction, not nonfiction.
Okay.
And we should all now know after COVID that much of the scientific literature is basically bullshit. It's just literature, and not to be taken all that seriously because it's not reproducible. And so here were 6 papers claiming they've done this. It wasn't reproducible in me, and it's certainly possible that if I gone on to test 25 men, it might have worked. I doubt it, though. I actually don't think that we know the neurophysiology of
So what was
arousal
this
and
thing?
orgasm.
What did you do? Was it a penis ring at that time, or was it something else?
No. I'll now tell you 5 sentences away from finishing. I'm telling you how I
Okay.
got to where we are right now.
Sorry.
Sorry if I'm going on too long. So
don't worry.
I call this project O. And typically, I tried to get it published, but because it was a negative study, it didn't get published. Because negative studies almost never make it into literature. Anyway, years passed. A urology professor at the University of Utah, out of Montana, that's a state just to the south. He heard about this, and he was trying to come up with a way of counting the number of nocturnal erections that men have because they really indicate their cardiovascular health. And we heard about my experimentation. He said, I got to work with that guy. So he's now my chief medical officer.
Fantastic.
So he told me that nocturnal erections can predict whether a man is going to have a heart attack or a stroke. And I was unaware of this. That's really powerful because in medicine, Joe, medicine, we treat associations. High blood pressure is associated with a heart attack. Elevated lipoproteins is associated with atherosclerosis, but they're not predictive. I mean, Joe, right now, I don't know what your blood pressure is. I'll just make it up. You look pretty healthy. Let's suppose your blood pressure went from 110 to 140 systolic.
Yeah.
And what does that mean?
Yeah.
It's not telling you you're going to have a heart attack.
No.
It's just kind of like a signal, and probably it's more likely due to either diet or sleep than it is to disease. But nevertheless, we throw pills at it. That's what we doctors do. We treat associations preventively. So when I say predictive, leading indicator, if a man's nocturnal erections go down by 50% in number, that man has a 50% chance of having a heart attack in the next 2.5 years. Now that's powerful.
Wow. That is powerful.
88% of men who have strokes report having erectile dysfunction, but as evidenced by decreased nocturnal erections. In a study back in the 90s, the number of nocturnal erections goes down. So this would be like the vital sign for every guy's most vital organ. What do men care more about? Their blood pressure or their dick? And so it's kind of obvious. So we know.
Yeah.
So this doctor, like most straight doctors, is what I call a cock ring virgin, meaning he's never used the cock ring. By the way, I don't like calling them cock rings. I call them erection rings. But
you call them what rings?
I call them erection rings because it tells you what they're really doing.
Okay.
What they're really doing. I mean, cock toy is kind of dismissive. It's cock toy, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's like a
So
novel,
let's
sex
call
toy
them
novelty.
erection rings.
Yeah, call them erection because that's what it's doing. It's sustaining an erection.
Mm-hmm.
It's a valuable function.
So it's got twofold. It's twofold. Tell me.
Our rings do.
Yeah.
Because our rings provide data and they also sustain erections. So when he told me he wanted to count nocturnals, I said, well, let's go for all erections. What do men care more about? The ones they have while they're sleeping or the ones while they're having sex? And we all know about morning wood and we laugh about it, but one erection in the morning is not enough. The average man between the age of 25 and 65 should be having 3+. So that's
during
the backstory.
The night or in the morning?
During the night.
Okay.
And the man should, so we've done what I did because I was aware of erection rings because I'm fortunate to be married to someone who likes sex toys. By the way, anyone who's getting married, that should be, I think, high criteria. People just too inhibited to talk about these things. But I think that any guy who's getting married should put that on their list of things. A woman, for that matter. Well, it should be in the gift list too. But ideally, our rings, of course. Anyway, we basically embedded sensors into an erection ring. Came up with the world's first smart wearable for men's sexual health.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe, we live in this incredible age of wearables, smart watches, smart rings,
Yeah.
bands, blah blah blah. But yet there's this gap, and the gap reflects where we are culturally, not just our culture. People like to talk about how, hey, we're Americans or you Brits, we're so inhibited. Hey, it's
Mm-hmm.
worse than the rest of the world. We're inhibited, but it's worse than the rest of the world. But there's this what we're doing with this smart sex tech. It should have been done 20, 25 years ago, because the technology is not that we're utilizing. Is off the shelf. We're not developing new technology. We're just using that old technology for a new use, which is sexual health.
Yeah.
And that's the backstory.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. So, in terms of, you said erectile dysfunction is, it's a sign of ill health. But you'd said before we came on and started recording this episode, not to call it erectile dysfunction.
Yeah, let me explain. Because a few things. The urologists call the penis the canary in the coal mine of cardiovascular disease, because the association between erectile dysfunction and heart disease is so obvious to them. But what with our device now documented about 85,000, maybe more erections, closing in on 100,000. I think with another 2 months, 100,000 erections documented. This is the world's largest dick database ever. Now we know it. So, and it's being mined by researchers and it's showing something really important that's different than what men and doctors are thinking about erectile dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
And it's why I hate the word erectile dysfunction, because it doesn't describe the situation for most men.
What's it saying that other than, that is really important then?
Sure. Well, one of the mistakes that doctors make in many fields, medicine,
Mm-hmm.
including, but especially in this area, is that the academic doctors, the university doctors, whether it could be the UK or here around the world, they in their clinical practice and their research, they see and study people with the most advanced, the people who have the worst conditions.
Right.
So when it comes to the penis, they're seeing men who can't get it up,
Mm-hmm.
or men who struggle to get it up.
Right.
But that's only about 10 to 12% of men. So men with significant cardiovascular disease, angina, heart attack, stroke, advanced atherosclerosis, poor diabetes, poor hypertension, often in combination. That's those men. They either have pump failure, heart pumps blood, not getting blood to the penis because they have whatever, angina, congestive heart failure. Then there are the arteries. Well, the arteries get narrowed with calcifications, with diabetes, hypertension, atherosclerosis, and that's dysfunction. That's a dead or dying dick, and these guys need to see a cardiologist, and neurologist. And sometimes they go online, they get pills, and that might mask the problem for a little while, because pills, the so-called PD-5 medications, with sildenafil, tadalafil, Viagra, cialis being the two big ones, they can put more blood into the penis. They can open up those arteries a little bit. But if a man has significant heart disease or diabetes and is not undertreating it, my point being, if your man's over 40 or 45 and has disease and goes online rather than seeing his doctor, he's making a mistake, because he could be missing an early signal of a significant problem. But that's not most men. So those men are dysfunctional. I have no problem with the word being used to describe them. But the other group that doctors are thrown in this ED dysfunction category, about 85% plus of men, they get it up and then they lose it. Well, that's different. An erection that fades after getting hard is very different than an erection that's struggling to happen.
Okay.
So, and that's where the ring is particularly valuable. Go ahead.
It was interesting. If a man gets it up and then struggles to keep it up, the woman automatically thinks it's her. He doesn't fancy me.
Yeah,
I don't turn him on.
There's a solution that women should be and men should be aware of. I'll get to in just one moment. Let's think about the way women have been described in the past, though, in the UK and the United States and elsewhere in the world. Because, Joe, maybe you look a lot younger than me. I'm 72 years old.
I'm 63.
Maybe I was going to say, you look younger than me. I was going to guess 56, 57, somewhere around there.
I'll take that.
But
I'll take it.
But your glasses are concealing the corners of your eyes there. I can't.
No, I don't need glasses.
Anyway, the point that in your youth and when I was dating, say in the late 70s and 80s, early on in my medical career as well, when women were still being described as frigid, anorgasmic, hysteric, cold.
Yeah.
And the feminists came along and said, no, you can't fucking describe women that way anymore.
No.
It's demeaning and it's shaming. And it doesn't help people solve the problem. Well, men are still being screwed. Men are you got ED, you're dysfunctional, you're impotent, you're a limp dick. Now we can toss in toxic masculinity, porn addiction,
Oh God, yeah.
all these other the death grip for guys who prefer masturbation. Men, guys, my wife, her friends, they'll talk about vibrators because vibrators, back again, going back to the 70s and 80s, around the same time when these words would be kicked out of, when you couldn't no longer call women these things, vibrators were also being commercialized for women.
Yeah, they were.
They've been around for over 100 years. There's a prostitution museum over next town over in Butte, Montana. They've got vibrators that are working on steam from the 1870s and 1880s.
Wow.
They've been around for a long time. And they're being marketed as as massage devices, etc. But they've been around for a long time. But when they really start to be commercialized in the late 70s and 80s, there was a concern about vibrator addiction and vibrator dependency. No one talks about that anymore because they've been mainstream. They've been normalized, and men don't have anything. So when it comes to erection rings, there's still this association in the straight men's mind with gay men, fetish, male pride. I don't need it.
Yeah.
So what is the data showing? Let me tie this all together now. So most men, the 85% of men who do get up and lose it, they've got a problem. They don't have dysfunction. They got a problem. They don't need a penile implant, and the problem can be sorted out with data, and the problem can be addressed with a ring. Almost all men benefit from rings. Let me explain. I'm going to illustrate with my hands for the people who want to watch.
Yeah, okay. So we some of it will go out on Spotify and Apple, and people won't be able to see what you're doing. So your hand is held at a half mast. Is that the limp dick? That one.
We're gonna make that like this.
Okay.
So here I can for the other part of the audience now.
I
will. Basically, the incidence of erectile dysfunction goes up 10% per decade after age 45. By my age, it's 70%. The expectation of doctors, myself included, was that as men get older, they have more hypertension, diabetes, heart attacks, blah, blah, blah. And therefore, the firmness of their sex erections should go down. The firmness of their nocturnal erections should go down. And the number of nocturnal erections should go down. And that's not happening. And I remember about a year and a half ago or so when we had 25,000 erections documented. Look at the data thinking, the data is telling me something. What is it telling me? And then it's like it dawned on me. The data is saying that, if we exclude the men who have bad heart disease, bad diabetes, bad hypertension, but men are reporting more erectile dysfunction because we're actually not describing it correctly, but men are reporting more erectile dysfunction, but their penis is staying just as hard, especially at night when there are no other variables. Why?
Why? Because that doesn't indicate health. That indicates something else.
Something else. So their erections are fading. They get hard and the erections are fading. So why are they fading? Well,
and this is the sort of 85% of men rather than the
85%. This is most women's men. This is most men. Well, there are could be psychosocial reasons. Yeah, there could be issues with their partners. Hey, maybe the baby's crying in the next room. They're worried about paying the mortgage. They've had too many. They've had 2 cocktails too many. They decide to smoke that entire joint rather than just having 1 or 2 puffs. And that can interact with medications because we doctors prescribe 2 classes of medications that are dick killers, one erection killers for women too. Antihypertensives, many hypertensives, not all, and all antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications. Are these people taking? Is the dose too high because it's affecting their sexual function? So all these factors, whatever it is, alcohol, recreational drugs, medications, it could be mild hypertension, diabetes is common, issues with their partners, things that people don't want to talk about, boredom, whatever it is. What a guy gets hard and loses it, blood is leaving the penis. How does blood leave the penis to the veins? The goal is not to necessarily put more blood into the penis. butt to keep the blood in the penis, and only an erection ring can do that. And I don't like, I said earlier, I don't like calling it a cock ring because that puts in the context of a toy.
Yeah.
This is not a toy. This is something like not as good as a vibrator, because vibrators are incredible, but it's something, if a man wants to last longer, rock harder, have more intense orgasm, be more confident, and for his female partner or his male partner, most importantly, have them be more confident and more relaxed, put a ring on it. That's what the data's saying.
Didn't
Put a ring on
Beyonce
it.
sing a
So,
song? If you want put a ring on it. She
it's
didn't
particularly
mean that.
internal. I think putting a ring on, ideally, that would become part of foreplay. I mean, look, I'm a guy. I'm easy. My wife puts on red lipstick and shows me one of our rings. Like, okay, I'll stop working.
Yeah.
So,
but the thing is, but it's more mainstream. It's much more mainstream now for women to say, "Do you know what? I need a bit of lube or something like that," than it is for men to say, play with that, play with me. For a man to say, "Do you know what? I think I need a little bit of help here," or "Do you know what? I want to maintain a heavy." So, in your research with people that have used it, how have their partners responded, male or female, or other genders?
See,
Do they?
I'm going to give you a typical story for the age group that you're of your audience.
Yeah.
Guys, this is a true story. I don't remember the guy's exact age, but he's in his early 60s, and he is experiencing in his mind erectile dysfunction.
Right.
He contacts me by email, and we arrange a video conference. And he says, "Well, I've spent close to $15,000 to $16,000 trying to fix my ED, because guys will do anything. Guys will walk on broken glass to solve the problem.
I'm sure.
So he spent money on. He's taking maximum dose Viagra. He's tried shockwave therapy. He's had the P shot, the plasma shot, which is also expensive. He and his wife have been in therapy. It's a whole bunch of things he's doing. So I asked him a question. Is your problem that you can't attain erection, or is your problem that you can't sustain erection? Since he tells me he gets erections. So I said, okay, well, tell me what it's like when you have sex with your wife. The solution was so simple. So they go to bed, they kiss a little bit, he gets hard, because he's getting blood in. He gets hard.
Yeah.
He then goes down on her because that's her preferred way of coming, and that's probably true of the vast majority. And people just don't talk. The whole the doctors are focused on penetrative sex. That's not the.
So are the movies. So are the movies. And that pisses me off. Oh my God! So every single woman has an orgasm on penetrative sex immediately
too.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, right now, if I kept this camera on and walked over to my wife, who's working over there, threw her against the wall, like in the movies.
Yeah, like in the movies.
To bang her really hard. One, she'd be fucking pissed off at me. Two, there's no way that she's having an orgasm. And frankly, I'm not having an orgasm either.
No, you're right. But plus the fact actually it's at our age, and I don't even younger, it's really fucking awkward to do that. I mean, how many people could actually physically do that? Stand in one place with their high heels on, their skirt up, and the guy can actually. I mean, how many people could do that? Only the people in the movies. But yeah, so you were saying he got into bed.
So this guy tells me he goes down on her, like in most successful marriages or just committed relationships between a man and a woman. The woman comes first and third, because that's the way it is, and it's better that way. And then he goes, because she's in her post-orgasmic state, doesn't want to put out that much. She then wants him to have sex in missionary position, and then he starts to do that, and then he loses his erection. I said, okay. I said, how many kids has your wife had? How old is she? Well, she was in her 60s. She's had 4 kids. I said, what do you feel when you penetrate her? He said, I don't feel anything. Well, no guy wants to tell his female partner the pussy's too loose.
No.
But the ring. So I told him, look, I recommend you spend $16,000. Our maximum performance ring, which is the non-tech ring, it's about technology, but it's specifically designed to enhance pleasure and performance. He gets the thing for $60. And 2 weeks later, he tells me he's having successful penetrative sex because he enjoys it again. Why does he enjoy it? Because the ring is holding more blood in his penis. The penis more blood. The penis is now has increased sensitivity,
It's
and
bigger and
also
harder.
he's not worried about losing his erection. And I've experienced that in my own
Yeah.
relationship with my wife. The ring has totally changed the way in which we make love, because before we started using the ring, there was a sort of rush to orgasm. Oh, my wife is 71 now. There's sort of, we're both turned on. What tool, what vibrator you want to use, what position to have sex in, blah blah. But there's this rush to it because both of us are older and we could lose it, so to speak.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
the
no,
ring
you're right.
changes that. With the ring, I'm good for with minimal stimulation. I'm good for 45, 50 minutes. So if I'm going down on my wife, she's no longer thinking, I got to come quickly. She's
Yeah.
like tense because
Yeah.
he's not going to be hard afterwards. It's
Yeah.
she loves me. She doesn't. For her, it's not a hey, I'm going to come and goodbye, go to bed. It's she wants a more intimate romantic experience,
Yeah.
but she'd like to be more relaxed, and that's a game changer.
Yeah.
For both of us, and I hear about that from our customers a lot.
So why do you think there's so much shame and secrecy around the whole subject?
That's
Did you like that
That's
question?
a big question. I think things are better now than they were certainly in my youth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I think that on the female side, vibrators are normative.
Yeah.
So I think that issues
but
of
we still
orgasm.
don't talk about older lady problems. We don't talk about dry vagina, painful sex, etc. We don't.
Well,
So I remember, as I've been with my partner since I was 56. Okay, so postmenopause, hadn't had sex for a while. I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified that it might hurt. And so went off and got myself pessaries. I think he's only just realised that that's what I did because he's listened to the podcast, not because I told him, not because I just it's too embarrassing. It's too embarrassing to tell him. Why would I say that? So why are we not allowed to talk about things like that? Why have we got to go into the bedroom as a woman, wet and ready and vibrant, and as a man, erect and ready, and we can't talk about our sexual health? You just shrugged your shoulders at me.
there's so much pride involved in it, and there's so much residual embarrassment. My wife jokes that she had, kind of jokes about herself that she still has one foot in the Victoria. So there's one part of her, that's still a proper English lady from circa 1900, and there's another part of her that is, Scorpio, wild woman. I think the things are going to change even more dramatically for women as testosterone becomes a standard of care for postmenopausal women. So for most of my medical career, estrogen for postmenopausal women has been controversial. Now it's normative.
Yeah.
Thank God. But I mean, now think about how dumb I'm being. The doctors complain about me again. But think about how the resistance thinking of the medical community, because you talked about inhibition. What hormone do women lack as well after menopause? And that's testosterone. They go to zero. Well, and now you expect to still have the type of you would like that type of libido that you had, say, in your 30s. Not to go back. You can't go back to what it's like when you're a teenager. But you'd like to have the type of libido that you had when you were in your 30s, when you were not menopausal yet, or even premenopausal.
Postmenopausal.
And that could be achieved with testosterone. And I'm confident, and it's going to take off the next
it's beginning to. You can. I mean, I've on one of my episodes I talk about my HRT journey, but you can go to the doctor and ask if to have a testosterone on our national health, have a check. I genuinely don't know what you could do after that, because mine is okay, and then I went to a private specialist as well to have a look. So you could. In this country, you can buy everything on the internet, which is also incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, well, I think if you're in the United States, in my experience prescribing and also talking to women, the creams are not that effective. It really has to be, or the pills. It has to be injected in order to really help.
Oh wow! Okay.
Women.
I didn't know that.
But
I did not know
getting
that.
back to talking about men and women in general terms, we are all on the road from what I like to talk about erectile fitness to
Okay.
erectile dysfunction. Men and women, we're all on this road.
Mm-hmm.
It's inevitable. And I like to talk about as a fitness issue, because then we're taking out this dysfunction, shame.
Yeah.
Guys don't want to talk about ED with their doctors, and the doctors aren't asking them about it. Matter of fact, in the electronic health record in the United States, I know it's true in the UK as well too. There are no questions, mandatory questions that a doctor must ask on like an annual physical, about someone's sexual health. That's a change that needs to happen. Doctors need to ask the questions. Then people
So
need
they
to start
don't
become more
ask.
comfortable about talking about it.
So they're not
So
asking men if they've got any erectional problems.
right,
Okay.
they don't ask. They should. Because it's
Yeah, they should.
not just the sexual health, but the cardiovascular health, and also our sexual health is so intimately involved with our mental health as well too. But we're all on this road, and we don't know where we are. We don't know, because a guy could still have like one nocturnal erection. He should have three, and still perform sexually. So we don't know where we are, and that's we don't drive a car without a dashboard. We don't drive. And hopefully we pay attention to the warning lights when they come on, because we want to take care of problems before they become bigger, overt, bigger problems. And that's what the tech ring, our premier device, that's what that can do. It can tell a man, where am I in comparison to other men my age? And we have men who've gotten cardiac catheterizations who could perform sexually. They were deteriorating, but they still could perform. But they didn't know, instead of having 3 nocturnal erections, they were having 1 nocturnal erection. And we've had men, 2 of the younger men who've used the device in their 20s. We've had one guy identify an adrenal tumor, and we had another guy identify a significant hormone, kind of global hormonal problem. So getting data is really valuable. Working on a device for women. This is a prototype for those who can see it. You can describe it. But this is the world's first monitor of clitoral health. This is not you, by the way. It's someone else.
So for anybody who is not seeing this, where can they see that? Can they see it on your website?
They go to the website. They have to go to the website, and they can see a prototype. We're calling it the Clitique.
Love
and
it.
it's the world's first monitor of the health of the clitoris. And this is going to transform gynecology and sexology for women, because women will finally be able to get data. But for women and for men, so much of what we do in the area of sexual health is based upon some influencer, some celebrity, conjecture, a hope, and as opposed to based upon something that's objective. And if you have data, you can then say, here's my baseline, like it would be a blood pressure or an electrocardiogram, or a blood test. Here's my baseline. Now I can measure something against it on a regular basis, because I want to find out problems before they actually become bigger problems.
You're on a mission to make sure that everybody wears a firm tech ring, in terms of we all wear watches, we all wear auras or some kind of fit. So, and then it is readable. You can read your data, can you? So you know what's going on. So you are aware if there's a problem.
You're in control of it.
Is it like an Apple Watch or an Oura Ring?
Yeah, it's my wife calls it a dick bit, but
a dick what?
Dick bit. It's a play upon Fitbit. Fitbit is like the Apple Watch.
Dick bit's good. Yeah.
Yeah, but we're here we are. We're in the can you see that?
Here we are. Just about. Right, it's got an app. Okay, got it.
We're in the Google and Apple stores. I'll show you what the data looks like.
Okay.
Just one sec.
And so, you literally download the app like you would anything else and read it.
Any other app, and we're an app crazy society, as you know. There it is. Can you see it? There we go. It's, I'm an 8.1.
You have a fitness score. Well done. Look, your fitness is good.
That's right. Average man my age is a 6.5, and I'm an 8.1.
8.1. Well done. Yay. So have there been any surprises on your journey?
It's use it or lose it, man. You need to, we doctors should be recommending
as well as women, we need to use it and lose it as well. So if you don't use your vaginal muscles, and you don't necessarily have to have sex to do so, you will then you run the risk of being incontinent.
It's more than vaginal muscles. I mean, it's the vaginal muscles. We're aware of them when we have an orgasm. Men and women too. Yeah. But it's the clitoris. If someone, as with the penis too, if you don't have orgasms and you're postmenopausal, or an older man, it atrophies. The penis will shrink in size. The
Yeah.
clitoris shrinks in size. The body, and you can't exercise. The vaginal muscles are skeletal muscles. Skeletal muscles we can control. You can strengthen the vaginal muscles,
Yes, you
and
can.
and there are men who have prostate problems, urological surgeries. They have weak pelvic floor muscles as well too, and there are exercises they can do to strengthen those muscles.
Mm-hmm.
But those muscles, that doesn't put more blood into the penis or the clitoris. You have the only way to put more blood into the penis and clitoris is to have an orgasm.
Yeah.
Get
Okay,
aroused,
fine.
and you don't have to have an orgasm, but to get maximally aroused, you can't exercise those muscles in the gym. They're smooth muscles. You don't control them.
Yeah.
The only
Yeah.
place you can exercise those muscles is in the bedroom. Of course, you can do them standing up if you want, but I don't recommend standing up. But so use it. So here's some data. Three medical
Yeah.
studies. There's a large study of women aged 35 to 45 showing that if they had these women with anxiety or depression disorders,
Okay.
if they had an orgasm every day for 6 weeks, they reduced the cortisol levels, the stress hormone, by up to 50%. Well, it
Yeah.
could be actually that regular orgasms is as effective, more effective than antidepressants. Well, that'd be really interesting. No one's done that
Yeah, it
research
would
yet.
be.
I'd like to do that research.
Yeah,
Um,
do that. Do it. Do it. Do it.
I intend to.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big study out of the UK, probably about a decade or so ago. It was out of Wales. Of course, maybe the fact that men from Wales are weird, but it was out of Wales. A big study showing that it meant if they were over 70 and they had sex twice a week, as opposed to 2 or less times per month, they reduced their risk of sudden cardiac death by 50%. Well,
Wow. That's
that's
incredible.
extraordinary.
Yeah.
And I think these guys should be telling their partners, "You want me to die?" So the
You haven't got a headache.
another
You want me to die? Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Mm.
I need lend a hand here. So and the another one is I think it's out of the United States, big study though, showing that couples in committed relationships, and I forget how they define it, but couples in committed relationships who had sex 3 times a week versus I think it's less than twice a month, they had half the divorce rate or separation rate. Well, think about the impact. Think about the impact upon mental health,
Mm.
physical health, and children if we cut the separation or divorce rates.
Yeah.
Because we all know, whether you're white, black, rich, or poor, when people who get divorced, the impact upon the kids is the kids are less likely to finish high school, less likely to finish
Mm.
college, will have
Mm.
lower income,
Yeah.
but make less money, more likely to do drugs, more likely to drink alcohol. I mean, I've actually suggested to 3 now commissioners of health, state commissioners of health in the United States, hey, here's something that you could do that you recommend that won't cost any government money. Just go on the air and tell people to fuck more, especially if they're in a committed relationship. They need, because you'll be saving society all these additional expenses. I haven't found anyone do it. I even asked the governor of my state here in Montana to do it.
You need to do it. You need to get on that pedal.
Yeah.
Start the campaign. So, in terms of where we are, and what you're trying to achieve is you want everybody to wear a dick ring.
I want two things. Every man who's at risk, or every man who's over the age of 45, should get his data. Just the way you get your blood pressure, your low proteins, electrocardiogram. Everyone should get their data and follow their data. Younger men don't need to follow their data. But every man who wants to maximize their performance and pleasure, and that has an impact on the pleasure of their partners as well too. Every man who wants to rock harder, last longer, have more intense orgasm, put a ring on it and take a pill. So there are 2 studies that we did.
Oh, you condone taking a pill, do you?
Yeah, because pills help. They put a little more blood in.
Okay.
Here's the data. Although men who don't want to take pills should see a ring as a non-pharmacological first line. I don't even say therapy. First line enhancer of pleasure.
Yeah.
So we did a study, and then there's also an independent study. If a man gets rock hard and climaxes, it takes about 25, 35 seconds for the erection to go down afterwards. If a man gets rock hard, climaxes, and has our ring on, he'll stay hard for a little bit over 2 minutes. add tadalafil 10 milligrams, and it's now lower. So it now approaches 3.5 to 4 minutes. So what's it telling men? Put a ring on, take a pill. Get over any pride issues you have. Be as manly as you can be. I mean, we don't tell women, I don't want you using a vibrator. Any guy tells a woman doesn't want to use a vibrator is an asshole. Any guy who would tell, and then, I don't know, it's just weird. People are weird. Anyway, any guy can prove this to himself tonight. Whether he has ED, identifies as has ED, doesn't want to admit it, but whatever. Because we all have ED. Every man, all of us lose blood faster from our penis as we get older. That's just the way it is.
Just the way it is.
Women have a similar issue with blood leaving the clitoris faster. But if they're using a vibrator, it overcomes it because vibrators stimulate arterial blood flow. Vibrators are like super Viagra, if you will, in terms of blood flow. They have obviously, there are neurological pleasure benefits, but in terms of blood flow, it's like super Viagra. It just keeps the blood flowing.
Fantastic. So if anybody wants more information or to buy a dick ring, where do we do that? On your website, which is?
Yeah, you go to the website. We distribute from the UK, so you don't have to pay customs anymore.
Brilliant. Oh God, there's a customs
6 months ago.
Yeah.
You think they care about people,
Yeah. So I will put all the information in our notes as well. So if anybody wants to explore this further, but you think it's vital that we do.
I do, and both for health and for performance.
Brilliant. There's so much more I could talk to you about, but actually, I think we might lose the audience because this is one of the longest episodes I've done.
I'm sorry.
Elliot, Dr. Justin, I really enjoyed it. I could go on forever because it's such a juicy topic, or should be such a juicy topic. But thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoyed our conversation.
It was great. I enjoyed it too.
Good. Thanks.